Hey, we are so excited. We have got the amazing Brittany Fowler on the podcast today.
Tennessee representing.
We got some Tennessee in the house. And so you look forward to a really amazing accent. Let's just get that out on the table. But Brittany is the master of stewardship. So if you are looking for our listeners that are charged with leading the impact story at their nonprofit, Brittany has got some incredible ideas of how they have done that. They've transformed the University of Tennessee's program. So Brittany, she's on the line. Can you say hey?
Hi, everyone.
Good to see
Hi,
you.
y'all.
Hey, y'all, between Tennessee and Oklahoma, we are living up to all of our stereotypes. Thank you for that. And we also need to point out that the University of Tennessee is the only university that has a philanthropic mascot, right?
That's
The
so true.
volunteers.
The volunteers.
The volunteers. It's
Exactly.
wonderful. So we are in good company. It's so nice to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Brittany, how do you end up leading stewardship at the University of Tennessee? What is your journey? What brought you here? And just kind of connect some of the dots.
I have been very fortunate all along the way. I'll just start off by saying I'm extremely blessed. I got a job actually at Ole Miss before I was at Tennessee, and I was a program coordinator for an amazing program called the Mississippi Excellence in Teaching Program. I really was not at all familiar with higher education or nonprofit. I had come from luxury retail. So going into this world was very interesting. They had a $13 million gift to them to collaborate with Ole Miss or University of Mississippi and Mississippi State to bring teachers to the state of Mississippi. So it was a full ride and a study abroad program with the caveat that once you graduated, you taught in Mississippi for 5 years. It was incredible to see these amazing students with these high academic achievements wanting to not just give back and teach, but teach in Mississippi, which has its own, things that come with that. So a lot of poverty, lower pay, things like that. But people were so driven to make a difference. So that was my first step in learning how scholarships work and how endowments work and gifts and what it takes to show the impact from that. And then my husband's job, fortunately, transferred us to the Knoxville area. And I got a job as an assistant director of donor relations. I have fallen madly in love with the University of Tennessee and working here. And I was able to move up. And now I am where I am as senior director of stewardship and donor relations.
Great
fall
journey.
into this, don't we? I feel like there's the point in time when you just hit the tipping point and you just fall into this.
I would like to
philanthropy.
see some statistical analysis around, is it 90% of people who never meant to go into development that are actually in development? Because no one signs up for this except for, I guess, Julie, our resident hype girl.
When you go to college for it, I guess you're kind of signing up for it.
Yes, she went to a very progressive university that had a philanthropic and nonprofit track, so that's wonderful. I know, isn't that kind of great?
Luxury real estate had to play into dealing with high-level donors too. I mean, those experiences all parlay into the same kind of idea.
And
Stewarding,
It's
shepherding
very
people.
funny coming from Saks Fifth Avenue, where we wrote thank you notes to people after major purchases and making sure that they were happy with it. And you translate that and it's, oh, you gave us a gift to the university. Well, we write thank you notes too. And growing up
Yeah.
in the South, I mean, I've been writing thank you notes since I was 8 years old. So that's just, and to make that a job, I mean, talk about a dream come true.
Damn, and how much more fulfilling that must be for you to say thank you for this nice gift that could have enabled, maybe a teaching scholarship versus thank you for buying this mink. There's a very distinct difference.
Exactly. Far easier to talk in how you're supposed to say what you're going to do with the gift and, all these things that you're taught to write a thank you note. Well, it's much easier versus buying jeans than, oh, you helped give someone a scholarship to go to college. That's incredible. So.
Well, we love university life. We started our careers there. And I mean, I still call it the land of milk and honey because it is the greatest time in everyone's life. You have a built-in donor base with your what we would call grateful patients and your alumni, and it's just such a happy time of life. And so I will have my development confession that I was a public relations major in college and I'm a writer, which means that I automatically can't do any math whatsoever. And so I had huge imposter syndrome when I got to the university, even trying to figure out what the heck is an endowment. I mean, it took me probably a year to figure out how would I communicate what that is and what it does to a donor. And you've been working in this space, and we're going to double click on that a little bit in our conversation. And I'm just curious if you kind of had that same experience when you were getting into higher ed.
Absolutely. And as I've moved up, I think it's just natural to have imposter syndrome. Like, you want me in charge of this? Like, it seems so crazy. But at the same time, I think this is a newer field emerging in stewardship. So there's a lot of us who feel very green in the field, but it hasn't been around that long to be very seasoned. So, which is very exciting, I think, is kind of make it up as you go along, and you try new things and experiment, and sometimes it fails and sometimes it blooms into something you never thought it could be. So that is one of my favorite things about this job, is it's constantly trying new things. And with COVID happening and us going remote, how we've had to pivot digitally and try to continue those engagements with donors and making sure that we're still showing impact and talking to the right people to make sure funds are spent the right way. It's really changed our whole world. I mean, I'm at home right now, not in my office, but still being able to make those impacts, I think is great.
I love that. Would you mind setting the stage for where the University of Tennessee was just a few years ago when y'all kind of implemented all these programs? I know we talked right before this that y'all were in the middle of a huge campaign. Can you kind of paint the picture of that and what the time and...
Absolutely. So I've been at the university for 5 years now. And when I got here, we were already in the silent phase of our Join the Journey campaign. It has been our largest campaign in history with a goal of $1.1 billion, which just saying the word billion kind of takes my breath away still, because that's so huge.
You're part of the 3 comma club.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
T-shirts for that.
So we publicly launched in September of 2017, which was truly baptism by fire for me into the world of going into a campaign. So we had this amazing launch where we had interactive experiences for our donors. So before you go into a dinner where you know at the end of the night it's going to be an ask, but we made it to where they got to take essentially a nursing class. So we had the mannequins of the nursing mannequins that they use that like seize up, and then the nurses spring to action. So they got to see that. We had a mind-controlled remote car that some of our top donors could make a car move with their mind, that our Tickle College of Engineering has been working on. And getting to see all of this develop and show it, I think was pivotal in our success, because we have reached our $1.1 billion goal a year and a half early.
Congrats.
Which is...
And thank goodness it happened before COVID, right? Glad we reached goal.
Amen. Preach.
Shutdown. Yes.
And so we had so much momentum that our leadership, which I cannot speak highly enough of our vice chancellor for advancement, was like, no, we're just going to keep going. And we just closed it at the end of this fiscal year, which was June 30th at $1.33 billion. So It's been a great year where we continue to see amidst COVID. Our last fiscal year, we had a record number of donors, even despite having slowed down maybe in the dollar goal. People are still caring. And I think it's a lot of the messaging, which I will not take all the credit for by any means. Our communications team, they're rock stars, but just continuing to show the impact and continue to just fundraise at the same time. There's always going to be a need at universities. And so a big thing for us currently, and then definitely at the end of last year, was raising money for our Student Emergency Fund, which has done amazing things for students to help them just be able to finish school because they couldn't afford groceries or they didn't have Wi-Fi. So providing hotspots and money for food, it just goes and it proves to me what we're doing matters, not just in their education, but in someone's entire life.
That's one of those heart explosion moments for me, because it's
chills.
like that is the power of philanthropy, moving into spaces that we could have never anticipated. You could have never gone to a donor and said, could you provide some Wi-Fi or some food for some students 6 months ago? But now the need is so acute. And the other thing I want to point out about what you said, which I think is so brilliant, which is we need to give a shout out to our donor relations and stewardship folks, because when campaign ends, that's when your work really begins. You know, you really have to start digging your heels into impact and saying thank you and beginning that process. And I mean, how many you had how many new donors to your campaign?
Well, our total donor count, our goal was 102,455, which is what Neyland Stadium holds. And I think
Holy smokes, how did you time that?
We're over 105,000 unique donors throughout the campaign.
I mean, that is transformational, right, John?
I love that you tied it back to the stadium. Like how, it's so hard for people to
quantify that's so
what
relevant.
Like, but we packed out the stadium with donors. That is an incredible feat.
More than. It would have overflowed with a number of people, which is
That's the people
including the people at the nacho stands. So yes, got it. Good for you.
I love that visual.
Oh, that's great. So tell us a little bit about this electronic endowment reporting. I mean, on the surface, people are falling asleep. Electronic endowment reporting, right? Because it's just not the most hip topic to discuss. But you really took an innovative approach to it. And I want you to just tell our listeners a little bit about what you did to leverage this delivered to donors.
So we're in the midst. They haven't been delivered yet, but so we are laying all the groundwork right now, and we are using a platform called Otter, ODDER, which is on-demand digital endowment reporting, and is a partnership with ThankView, MSP Digital, and Lynn Wester. And we were very early adopters of ThankView. You can ask JDBB, who is our CEO, who loves ThankView more than anyone, and it would be me. I'm telling everyone who will listen to me, it is so worth the money. The way that we are able to personally show a video to someone and talk about their endowment report, which is what we are doing this year. So we're putting it all digital. There'll be a video component where they will hear from the chancellor about what endowments are doing in the university, which is so critical right now because we're using those unrestricted funds that have maybe been given, or we're using endowments in as many ways as possible to provide as much access for students during these hard times as we can. It's more important now than ever before, I feel like. So with digital endowment reporting, there'll be different tabs so they can see their financials. And we are going to send a note out saying, just so you know, it's been a weird year. So if they look a little different than before, everyone can agree.
Yeah.
Props for being human and being genuine and authentic in your communication.
And wanting to just be completely transparent with what we're doing. We are making investments still because that is the only way for the university to continue to move forward in these times. And we have the best people that we possibly can making those decisions. So it's not me. It's people who have very good touch on how all of that works. And then our job is just to report that in a digital way that they can easily print if they want to print for their records. They can store it digitally if they're like me, and I do all of my bill paying online. So all of that is kept on there anyways. And we're also able to show the exact impact they had. So if your scholarship went to support Susie Smith, you'll get a picture of Susie Smith along with questions that she answered that we solicited from her, like how has the scholarship affected you? What are your plans if you're graduating? What are your plans post-graduation? And it's going to be all collated into one email that they receive so they can see pictures of their student. They can see the financial side of things, the expenses. They can see the chancellor talking about the importance. And then in some cases, if they are very college specific, we'll have the video of the dean as well. So it's getting them as face-to-face as we can right now, access and hearing directly from the people who are making the decisions and seeing the pictures of the students who have the one-on-one impact of their philanthropy.
It just makes me smile.
It's just
Me
good.
too. I can nerd out about digital endowment reporting and impact reporting all day.
Well, I think it's so interesting to me because when you have such high level of customization as you've created here, the connectivity just goes up. It has to for the donor. And so your ability to see a picture of your scholarship recipient transforms this sort of nebula that is a human being, and here is their story, and I'm already getting emotionally invested in that, and it just creates so much more connection. And I commend you all, because I just think that is a sophisticated level of thinking of how to make those connections to impact right back to the donor. And I'm sure there's just a lot of good juju going on when you send that.
And it's so relevant.
Well, one of the things too that we will have the opportunity, we've sent in the past always in the mail. So I don't know if you open the mail that we have spent hours and hours making this perfect piece, and then people could throw it in the trash. It could get lost. Who knows? We can see if someone doesn't open this email. So that gives us the opportunity for the development officer who has that relationship to go back and say, just so you know, it's in your inbox. And it's not one of those things, if you get that text or you get that call, oh, well, let me check when I get home, see if it's in the mail stack. It's right here. So we know we can show more impact, and hopefully more people will actually see it. I would like to think everyone opens all their mail from us, but as a person who sometimes just goes, whoops, we know that's not the case. So it's really great. And we do have the opportunity to print for some of our maybe older donors who don't want to do that. We will make all accommodations to make sure that people are getting their financial information as well as their impact, which to me is just as important, if not more.
Y'all are such on the leading edge of best practice with that. A lot of our listeners, are not going to be at as big of shops as what you're coming from right now. Just practical advice of, if you can't do a full-fledged digital undertaking like that, what is, a really good key of where to start with stewarding, a long-term donor, like in a different way?
I think you have to have your financial piece. That's part of your fiduciary responsibility, is to make sure that you are providing what their money is doing. So particularly with endowments. And then what we used to do, and our shop we're medium sized. We're 5 people right now. We started it was 1 6 years ago, and we've grown to 5. So we are very grateful. But we used to do impact reporting separately in the spring. So it was 2 touches. For us though, we've decided if we could show the 2 together, I think it's a bigger impact. So this is what your money went to. This is the student who benefited, and showing it together, I think has more power to it than 2 separate pieces, which is hard. It's very hard because you're working, we're a year behind what we're showing. So it's your students from last year who benefited from this scholarship, sure, because we're all based off the fiscal year. But we've gotten a lot of good feedback, getting to see, oh, okay, now I can connect. $5,000 was spent. This is 5 students or whatever got a scholarship. Got it. So,
and you don't know that you've done this, but we did not tell Brittany to do this, but it is perfectly on point with what we say about balancing the fundraising, the science and the art of it. I mean, you're really talking about providing something that's left brain and providing something that's right brain. And so you've got the head and the heart coming together. And to me, that's where the magic happens, because we cannot be reporting out on just those financial pieces. Because yes, we need to do that. And you're right, we do have a fiduciary responsibility to that reporting back. But it's like the connection and the inspiration comes from the other, and we get greater engagement. So good on you guys for doing that. And one thing I just kind of wanted to back up and ask you, because I don't think all of our listeners may know what ThankView is. And I really appreciate that you brought that company up, because we've used them as well. And we're big fans of Lynn Wester and what she does and her authenticity tribe that she has going on. So can you tell people a little bit about what ThankView is and how you leveraged it?
Yes, so ThankView is a video platform to where you can send thank you notes via video. So we have used this tool in so many ways. One thing, the most recent thing that we've done is with under COVID, we had to pivot. So our chancellor I cannot speak highly enough of Dondi Plowman. She decided no student worker would lose their job because they had to go remote, which is huge. How many student workers we have across campus, particularly our telefund students who were calling and soliciting. And we decided this is not the appropriate time to be soliciting in this manner. So we were still soliciting for other things like our student emergency fund, but we really changed how we did that. So to keep these students employed, we trained them to send thank you videos to our donors. So the students who used to be the ones who call and, give to your alma mater, now they're the ones on video saying, thank you so much for giving to a university. It means so much to you and me. It's keeping me employed, and you are helping students just like me all across campus. So we have gotten amazing feedback, and anytime we can show students and connect a true story, I think that makes the most impact. So I talked a little bit about fundraising for our student emergency fund. For donors on Giving Tuesday now, when that happened, we had students who truly benefited from it. One got a hotspot and I think some money for groceries. Well, he was so willing and generous to film videos to tell donors, like, you didn't help just students like me, you helped me. I'm the one who needed a hotspot because I live in rural Tennessee and there's not good service out here. And you helped pay for my groceries because my job is, this is it.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
It was incredible. We also use it. We use it all the time, but we use thank you for our Grateful Vol Day, which is where we try to thank all donors from the previous fiscal year. So we have students film videos for different segments, and it's a big day where students write thank you notes. They get t-shirts, and we educate about philanthropy. It's going to be different this year, but we still will be leveraging sending videos of students who can truly show, I am a beneficiary of your philanthropy.
I love that. Is that something that you've seen kind of ushered in? Because we're big on creating cultures of philanthropy. Wherever you're at, how do you engage everybody, the whole team in the process? From at a university, you're talking of thousands and thousands of people to activate. Is that something that you've kind of grown over time, or what's that look like?
Yes, and it does not come from me. I'm very, very fortunate. Our Vice Chancellor for Advancement, Chip Bryant, is such a proponent of stewardship and educating on philanthropy. So he has empowered us to go out and make sure that we're talking about the follow-up all the time. So it's not just after a gift, there is another piece. And then we have our student alumni engagement program as well. And so she and I, Jenna Martin, we work very close together. She educates students. So we've been in a campaign for 8.5 years. Well, if I'm a student, I don't know what that means. So that's her job, is to go out and tell that story and say, even if you don't have a scholarship, if you're sitting in the brand new student union, you have benefited from donor support. So really changing how we show that students have benefited, because they all have. I mean, myself included, I benefit from donor philanthropy all the time, just by facilities on campus. And, you can even give to the campus fund that helps for beautification. And I get to see pretty flowers growing. I mean, the things that a university can do with donor funds is incredible, and it's everywhere. So we're trying to just make sure that's part of the culture from the students. And then we have a huge faculty staff campaign to give back, which is spearheaded by our annual giving team. And they took it, I think it was 16% gave back. It was either 2012 or 2014. I can't remember.
We won't hold you to it.
Know, in 2019, the fiscal year 2020, we had over 61% of faculty staff give back. So over half of the university who make, it ranges from minimum wage to, coach salary. Across that board, 61% are giving back because they believe in the university, they care about students, and they're seeing, I think, just being able to see the proof that it's moving the university forward in ways that I don't think any of us imagined would be so grand in such a short amount of time.
And for anyone in the employee giving who's not in the employee giving space, 61% is redonkulous. I mean, the industry standard is probably somewhere around 30%. And so bravo for that. And I have to tell you, I'm geeking out from like 5 minutes ago where you were talking about, because I just think this is such a radical idea that anybody can employ, using students for thank you videos to share how they have been impacted by philanthropy is, from a marketing perspective, so mind-blowing to think of what you could do with hundreds of videos like that. Your arsenal is completely full of gratitude and the symbiotic nature of not only delivering that back to a donor, but even putting just a pin in that moment in time for a student to stop, reflect, understand gratitude, be a part of giving. That is where real cultures of philanthropy really begin, because you have started with someone so young that's already a part of this process, and they understand that they have received this gift and they're trying to pay it forward. So I just think that's wonderful. I think that's a great hack for everybody listening. I mean, just simple videos that people can send in during this time of COVID that talk about their experience at your organization. I just think that is social media gold. I think that's website gold. I think you could just use that in so many ways. So congratulations.
The good thing about Thank You too is students are recording themselves, especially now we can't be in the room together even. So the videos, you get the bloopers in the background, you get a dog walking by and you get
it's the
background.
Best when that happens.
It's so much more real than the posed photo where they're wearing all our logoed gear and we have them in this perfect setting, which is great and it's got its place. But I think now we're in such a raw time where people are home and we're more vulnerable, and I'm wearing stretchy pants, but you need to be able to have it so people know that these are real students. It's not someone that a hired actor even, because you don't always know. These are students who are in their house trying to do the best that they can given the circumstances. So that's one of the best parts about Thank You is how authentic you can have a video be.
Love it.
And what would be missed, if you waited out for perfection? I feel like we keep seeing this as a thread of just show up and collect it. That's wonderful.
I have a question just that I love to ask people in stewardship and donor relations, just because you have this unique lens onto this very particular part of philanthropy, which is impact and seeing sort of these miracles unfold. So I wonder if there's a particular story that you have that you've been able to witness in your position where the mission just completely came to life and came very full circle and inspired you, and anything that you could share with our listeners.
We have a major donor on campus who has given all across campus. I mean, they are involved in athletics, engineering, education, vet med, all these pieces. So it's not just pigeonholed into one thing. Well, we had them on campus to give an impact tour. And so it was a physical tour. We got a car, we had students stationed at each place, and we drove them around so they could see the full impact. We went to our vet med hospital, and they got to go into, it was kind of a crummy space. It was where they do their, it sounds weird. They were like mannequin cats, and it's teaching you.
Yes,
like
yes.
Movie.
Yeah. It was the wildest thing I'd ever seen. And it was very interesting and very state of the art, but the room itself, it was an older building on campus. We all have those. Well, what was so magical is they are the donors who are making it possible. They're getting a new facility because of their philanthropic leadership. So for them to get to see, oh, I'm helping to create a new building, but look what they're coming from. Like, this needs a new building. And then driving around and getting to meet with students that they knew personally. So they had benefited from their scholarship, and they got to have lunch with their donor who they've talked to via, they send thank you notes or thank yous. And it's sometimes a little more one-sided, but getting them together in a room. So, oh, are you still studying civil engineering, or did you change? And getting to have those conversations, and then ending the day with a meeting with the chancellor and the vice chancellor, and just talking about, and it wasn't an ask at the end. It was all like, I hope you've enjoyed your day, because look at what is possible because of you. So that was one of those major gift donors where you're just like, oh my goodness, look how much one person has not just done themselves, but has activated others to do as well. So their gift may be, the main gift, but it inspires so many others, and you reach so many scholarship recipients who then they will be inspired. So getting to see this massive ripple effect of what one donation can do that started with, just like the rest of us, a gift right after graduation of $5 or $10. So it's really beautiful to get to see the full circle and to show that is, it's like Christmas. You're like, look at all these amazing things.
She's in stewardship heaven.
She is in stewardship.
And it's so great because if print stewardship is probably about stewardship 2.0, experiential is got to be stewardship 3.0. So I just love that. And you're so right. And I want to make sure we don't just gloss over something really important that you just said, which is taking our donors and giving them experiences that are not just about asking and soliciting. Mm-hmm. It's like donors don't want us coming to the trough every single time. And we all know that fundamentally, but I really appreciate how you tied that back, even just to a $5 first time donation and what it could be. So I love that story. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So Brittany, we ask all of our guests to share one good thing, something that you could, implement today. If you're at a nonprofit, what is one good thing that you would inspire us that you could take action on?
I am an organization crazy person. I love to have
your bookshelf.
everything.
Sorry to interrupt.
I know, it's so
it
perfect.
Is very organized.
Look at her bricks. They're so organized, John.
Oh, look
My
at
to-do list every single day, typed out, and then I write all over it so I can make sure everything's done.
My to-do list here. I'm feeling you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Color-coded.
I think if
log on to our YouTube, you can see all these videos. Yeah, these to-do lists.
All these, if I just think being organized is the best thing you can do, and identifying your top donors and start making organization lists for them. So we have individualized stewardship plans for 21 people across campus. I hold 15 of those, and I just make sure, oh, you're on this committee. I need to have this in a location to where if something happens to me tomorrow, you can pick right back up and know, oh, they're on this committee, so they'll be on campus for this. So they'll be in this Zoom meeting, because a lot of engagement pieces happen well beyond the development team. So being able to be in touch and just have a list of what they're doing so you can help spread out the love a lot, because if they're going to a board meeting, they're going to get a ton of information and they're going to get special treatment and all these fun things. So maybe hold off on our impact piece that we were going to send them till the next month so we can spread things out. And that way it looks more impactful, and it looks like, and we do communicate better across teams. So having that open line of communication with your colleges and athletics so we can know what's going on for our top donors, and making sure that we spread our love out across time. So it's not, hey, here's August and here's all the stuff. So we can spread it out.
But I think that's great. I love that your one thing is to spread the love out, because it's so true. I mean, how do you take what you know is coming and take it throughout the whole year? So it just feels like so much more. It feels so much richer throughout the entire season. So I love that advice. So
I know.
good.
I feel like this podcast is lifting up all these amazing hashtags, like hashtag spread the leg, hashtag stretchy pants, because I feel it. I am feeling you too. That is about the one good thing about working from home. You know, we usually end our podcast just asking all of our guests, why are you for good? Because we're really trying to drill down into the heart of why are we in this business? It's got to be more than a paycheck. And we're wondering what your one thing is, that the reason why you are for good.
I think I am for good because I can see the good in people. And especially working in nonprofit, you get to see students who are truly just so overwhelmed with gratitude from getting a scholarship. And being someone who paid for my own college, I know how stressful and struggling that can be. And so getting to see the impact of students who have benefited from a scholarship, or if they have a crisis, that the university, we have the ability to spring into action to help people on a very real level. It's a microcosm of who we're working with, but it's spreading out to the whole community and our entire state. So for me, just getting to see these small sparks that I know are going to create, you know, these massive fires one day of amazing philanthropic actions, just to me is so inspiring. And just to get to see where it all starts is a beautiful thing.
And you're right, because it adds an extra layer when you work at a philanthropy who has directly benefited you. And I think Brittany's a Clemson graduate, but she has her master's from University of Tennessee. And so that again is another full circle moment where I think we have a lot of people probably listening who are working in the nonprofit that help them, whether it's in healthcare or whether you benefited from a social service, and you in the university setting. I just think it makes our work more deep and more meaningful. So thank you for bringing that up. And you're a delight, Brittany Fowler.
Such a delight. Brittany, you were going to have a little fan club started, so we'd love to connect people to you. What's the best way to get in touch with you, and where do you like to hang out online?
Yes, I would say the best way is go through gratitude@utk.edu is our email address. That way we can spread the love. My team is incredible. So if you want to talk about endowment reports, Avery Howard is going to be your man, and we can get it to him. If you want to talk about any of our smaller colleges and how we're working with them, Juliet Kesterson, Margaret McMillan can't do anything wrong. She is our assistant who is the glue that binds us. And then Katie Layton is brand new to our team and is taking on the general relations. So events and moving things digital, acknowledgments. So our whole team can do anything. So we'll point you in the right direction at gratitude at utk.edu.
I put that in the show notes, so it'll be easy to access if you're listening. But this has been an absolute delight. Goodness, thank you so much for all your wisdom and your infection. Your infection.
Thank you for infecting us during this time of COVID virtually. You do have an infectious personality, though. I will say you're a delight, and thank you so much for casting your net over the whole team, because I mean that is really what philanthropy is about, is kind of getting in lockstep and knowing we can't do this alone because it's such a beast. So thank you for shout out to your team. That was really kind.
Okay.
They're the best.
Thank you, Brittany. That's our show for today.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you.